The European, called by destiny to run the empire of the globe, which he knows how to enlighten by his intelligence and tame by his abilities, is man par excellence. The others are nothing but hordes of barbarians.
It was one among these barbaric hordes that Sara Baartman was sucked into evil purposes, pursued by those who define themselves as man par excellence.
There is no vast difference between the intelligence of a bushman and that of an orangutan.
I visited a few of the very large communities consisting of great many round huts, disposed in a circular form. The people crowded forward in hordes to our wagon, and our tobacco seemed to have the same effect to them as a magnet has on iron. The number of grown persons appeared to me to amount to at least 200 or 300.
Lourens glorified the Hottentot woman, whom he considered to be beautiful and chaste. He fell in love with a woman whose name he couldn't pronounce, but called her Narina, the gentle Narina, named after a cuckoo flower.
Linnaeus classified the Hottentots within the category of Homo sapiens monstrous, which included wolf boys, wild girls, and the like.
I passed a great number of tombs consisting of small heaps of stones. These were the graves of the cuckoo, who had died of ulcers in great numbers. They had succumbed to the smallpox, which had made this an extraordinary devastation.
The white race, with oval face, straight hair and nose, to which the civilized people of Europe belong, and which appear to us most beautiful of all, is also superior to others by its genius, courage, and activity.
The Hottentots are far from being a savage race as they are perceived by the Europeans. There's nothing more savage about them than the peasantries in England. I've seen families in London living in hovels more dirty than ever I've seen occupied by a Hottentot. And they have committed more atrocious deeds than ever I've heard a Hottentot charged with. I think the Hottentot mind is better cultivated than many of those in the lowest ranks of London. And I expect to be better served and to be safer traveling with 20 Hottentots than 20 Europeans.
Africans are not capable of any great application or association of ideas, and seem formed neither in the advantages nor the abuses of our philosophy.
The Hottentots, who are aborigines of this country, are a people nearly extinct. A few kraals remain within the limits of the colony.
I came across a valley where thousands of bones lay scattered, where Bouge had left dead cuckoo as carrion. This was a terrifying sight. All these people denied a proper burial. The survivors could not put a name to the bones. The land no longer held the stories and souls of the cuckoo. It was alienated land, alienated from heart, alienated from history.
The prediction of the land has turned out to be true. The name of the tribe Nakwa is now on the eve of oblivion.
Everyone, the basest creatures, every Hottentot, every stunted creature that ever breathed poison in a slum, knows that the instinctive constitution of man is at fault here.
Sara Baartman, born in the 1770s, died 1815, buried 2002.
Of Sara Baartman's misery, because she was of us and we of her. We cannot undo the damage that was done to her, but at least we can summon the courage to speak the naked but healing truth. I speak of courage because there are many in our country who would urge constantly that we should not speak of the past. They pour scorn on those who speak about who we are and where we come from. and why we are where we are today. They make bold to say that the past is no longer, and all that remains is a future that will be. But today, the gods would be angry with us if we do not call out for the restoration of the dignity of Sara Baartman, of the Khoi-Khoi, and of the millions of Africans who have known centuries of wretchedness.
It is our job as a reference group to look at all angles, taking into account the wishes of the people.
This all started in London, when Sara was seen as a scientific item. Then it continued with Cuvier in France, and now, some 200 years later, you want to disrespect her remains again.
Yvonne, all we say is that if we take DNA samples, it will help us and we'll be able to trace the descendants of Sara so people can identify with her.
There lies the problem. Sara is not a symbol of individuals, but the symbol of a nation and of all the indigenous people of Southern Africa.
Performing any test on a 2-century-old body that is quite literally in pieces would not only be disrespectful, but would be culturally and psychologically invasive, and not to mention neo-fascist.
Taking DNA samples can hardly be called neo-fascist and invasive.
Gina, need I remind you about the French scientist's desire to understand Baartman's body? Then centuries of displaying it in a museum, and now, even after this infamous history, it continues unbroken in your scientific claims to do tests.
Look, Yvonne, I'm sure even you will concede that science always searches knowledge in the service of humanity. However flawed Cuvier and Saint-Hilaire were, they were brilliant scientists.
I give you that. But what was done to Sara was an abomination.
We agree and we condemn it. We are here to restore dignity to her, not to diminish her.
Genetic information will help us to tie Sara to kin, now living in Southern Africa.
I mean, there are many people making claims that they are related to Sara. Even you yourself should know. A white Baartman wrote to you asking if she might perhaps be related.
You know, DNA testing will help with these claims because we know how impossible it is to just trace descendancy through archival records.
The issue is really centered around Sara, the claims to Sara, her past, her body, and her bodily remains. Many indigenous groups have sprung up, and the politics around Sara might divide people as much as bring them together.
Harry, genetic information would cast important light on the complicated history where Sara hailed from. Biology will help us to show where Sara stood and how she relates in South Africa's complicated history.
Wait, hold on, Gina. There's more here than meets the eye. It seems that the possession of Sara's body has become a political one. And the politics around the whole issue seem to be dominated by men who lead the efforts to claim Sara's body while relegating women to a largely consultative role. One could even say this is just another way that men continue to possess and control women.
Come now, Yvonne, really? Why would we be involved in a reference group if we weren't deeply sympathetic to the tragedies of Sara Baartman's life and death and the many injustices perpetrated on the Khoi-Khoi community?
The problem, Robert, isn't the uncertainty of her life, but yet another scientific intervention on her body.
Possibly, the problem is in putting one's faith in science. Hard science might end up determining who is Khoi-Khoi and who is not, who is determined from Baartman, and so on. And these are questions of a social, not a scientific nature.
Harry, DNA samples will sort out more problems than what it would cause.
People, I think we have lost focus of why we are bringing Sara Baartman back to Southern Africa. It seems to me that all she has become is economic capital to give birth to new identities in a post-apartheid South Africa.
Let me ask you,
interesting perspective. I put it to you, here you are making and using a Western-style argument while standing as a biological descendant to prove your point.
The dead are rights just as the living do. And yes, it's only through claiming ancestry and descent through blood can the bones be brought back together
Sara Baartman, technically owned by no one, orphaned, vulnerable, and beholden to others, also shared the vulnerabilities of being a colonized woman.
Sara Baartman was born into a time when women had no rights, were seen as second-class citizens, as minors to be taken care of, to be controlled. What options did a Khoi woman have? Born into a patriarchal society and seen as a lower-class being.
The three men conspired to take Sara to London and option the rights to an exhibition on a contractual basis. In an African context, her build was unremarkable, but in European eyes, that unfamiliarity will make her extraordinary. It will make a lucrative scientific curiosity.
If it were true that she had already been working as a Hottentot Venus in the hospitals and the taverns for a number of years, why wouldn't she take the opportunity to leave the Cape?
The traditional telling of Baartman's story suggests a level of extreme naivety, but this does not do her justice. She was not an ignorant, hopeful young girl. Rather, she was a woman of roughly 30 years who entered her new life hopeful, though not delusional.
Papa, from this session, each man can silently while we have it behind us. Let us make good time. Roxanne, keep your course no west.
Afternoon, Captain.
Afternoon, Mr. Dunlop. Sea treating you well, I hope?
Yes, thank you, Captain. Although I'm accustomed to the sea, I've been served as a naval doctor for many a year.
Yes, quite right.
Captain, can I forward a request?
Go ahead, Mr. Dunlop.
Can we let the young woman up on deck? It's been days now and she's been cramped in her cabin.
Mr. Dunlop, as you well know, I do not agree with women aboard ship. Especially Hottentot women. It does nothing for the morale of the men. It can even cause insurrection.
I'm well aware of your sentiments, Captain, but keeping her locked in a cabin 7 foot by 7 is tantamount to catching her.
My answer is still no. She stays below decks and out of sight at all times. I will not have my men corrupted by the
But
siren.
Captain, without sunlight she could develop rickets, become ill or even possibly die.
It's better she die from rickets than have her devour my men with her lust. I must protect my men from her. She'll cause a riot among the men if I let her loose.
Hi, Captain, can I not just bring her up at night when all the sailors are asleep? I'll cover her in coats and make sure that she's out of sight.
Mr. Dunlop, I have a diverse crew on board, and not to mention the free slaves. You know it is forbidden to bring women aboard ship. And to make it worse, some of the sailors know of the creature from the hospital.
I'm well aware of that. However, you do not want to fall foul of the governor should something happen to that Hottentot woman. You know how he feels about the indigenous people.
You wear me down, Mr. Dunlop, and I'm afraid if I do not concede, you will carry on like an old wife. I came to sea to get away from that. Do as you must. But she is to be confined to the aft deck only. Are we clear?
Crystal clear, Captain. Thank you.
And be aware, should she cause any disturbance, I will hold you personally responsible, and I will punish you accordingly.
Feel like a piece of coke inside a wine barrel on the back of a donkey cart driving down C Street. Can't sleep. At times, my body burns up.
wish right now is that I never came on this trip. Things it was stupid. Now I ask myself, have I made the right decision? My wanting to get away? Has that not led me into a world of darkness where there is no escape? When I spoke to Anna, it seemed so clear to me. Hendrik Jong was no longer with me, and I had lost our child. I was living from day to day, and I was getting too old to be a witness, and I hated being a housekeeper. But anyway, life was secure and predictable. I really enjoyed entertaining the sick sailors at the hospitals, my singing and dancing. Entertaining in the taverns was fun. Mr. Dunlop said I could use my talents in London or in Paris and become famous. He said we can make a lot of money. Nou vra ek myself weer eens, is dit regtig die moeite werd? If I had money, I would be able to buy myself a house in the rich areas of C Street. Just imagine that, mixing with the rich and famous. Thus Khoi-Khoi woman giving the orders to a starving slave. Maria, I'm ready for my green cucumber sandwich. Or maybe I would enjoy the stillness of the veld, the warm, dry sunny days and the cold winter's nights, but most of all, being close to nature. Saam met my mense. Dreams, dreams, dreams. But here I sit, the old boards of the ship creak and groan, and so does my bones. Fearful of what might become of me. Fearful of what I might find.
Sailors are asleep except the night watch. Come, Hendrik's waiting topside for you. Come, let's get you up on deck so you can get some fresh air. Here, put this on.
Naam Hendrik.
Sarah, dis goed om jou te sien. Hoe gaan dit met jou?
Dit kan beter. Ek so siek.
Jy sal gewoon raak aan die skip.
Ek hoop so. Dit is goed om oor te wees.
Ja, dit is.
Die lig is so skoon en die sterre helder.
What are you two saying?
Sarah says she's happy to be topside with the fresh air and the beautiful stars above.
Glad the captain gave us permission to come topside.
Thank you, Mr. Dunlop. I will try and speak English for you.
Thank you, my dear. My Dutch is not the best, to say the very least.
The stars are smiling on us tonight.
It's a cute, beautiful, clear night, isn't it?
These are my stars. They give me comfort. But I am fearful.
Why fearful?
Soon I will not see the skies again. I fear I will become lost.
We always find our way back, won't you worry?
I remember the story my grandmother used to tell me of how the stars came to be. Hendrik, listen to this. She said that one dark evening, a young, lonely little girl was dancing around the fire. She was afraid. Afraid for her people. Afraid they might not find their way back home because there was no moon. So she reached into the fire for the glowing embers. And she threw them high up into the sky, and thus made a glowing path for people, so that they might find their way back home again at night.
I can just picture it. So you see, the stars will always lead you back home.
But what if I cannot see the stars?
Stop worrying, Sachi. You will find your way back. Your grandmother was a very wise woman.
She told us many stories.
Hendrik, your grandmother ever tell you any stories?
I'm afraid we grew up in a different world, Mr. Dano. World controlled by others. My family, they did not speak much of our history. All I know is that my great-grandfather came from the Salibi Islands and my great-grandmother from Ceylon. They were brought to the Cape as slaves.
But surely somewhere along the way you must have bought your freedom.
Yes, you are right. I don't know much of our history. All I know is that my parents, they were born free. And that's about all I know.
So you're a second generation free black then?
Let us rather say we are not slaves, but we are not citizens. We've never been free.
Look! Over there!
What is this?
The moon's rainbow. You see the stars around the moon? They're like a war party, surrounding it, protecting it.
Interesting.
The moon is very important in our culture. Without it, we cannot see.
I believe you people used to dance to the moon.
No, we used to dance under the moon. Without the moon, you cannot see.
We'll pop your feet on the rocks.
And over there, look! The 3 stars in a row.
Oh, you mean Orion's belt?
The 3 she-daughters living upon a sleepless.
I've never heard Orion's belt being described that way, but I'll be sure to remember that.
Do those stars have anything to do with the tortoise necklace that you always wear?
No. The tortoise brings rain from the mountains and good fortune to those who remembers its lesson.
A lot of folklore, if you ask me.
The Venus of ancient mythology, goddess of love and desire, rose naked from the foaming seas and stepped ashore onto an island. Flowers sprung wherever she trod. The Hottentot Venus, however, arrived in England a precariously illicit, positioned immigrant. Sara stepped ashore wearing sea-damp servant smockings, stiff with salt from the long voyage. Her personal possessions included inadequate rawhide shoes, a carrosse, her musical instruments, and a tortoise necklace.
Did it go in the museum today?
Didn't have much luck with William Bullock. Managed to solve the leopard skin, but he beat me down in price.
And what did he say about exhibiting, Sara?
His words were such an exhibition would not meet the countenance of the public. Seems Bullock fancies himself less a showman than an exhibitor of the exotic.
Seems no one wants to take on showing Sara on a contractual basis.
Seems that way, Henry.
So what are we going to do now?
I'm not quite sure. I thought everyone would just rush at the opportunity. I mean, if we could get as many people to see Sarches the way people see Captain Cook's possessions at the museum, I mean, we would all be very rich indeed.
That is what we came for?
I'm not quite sure. I'll have to think this through. I've been previous representations of the Hottentot here in London, but maybe we could present Sarchi as a tame Hottentot.
Tame? What do you mean, tame?
Well, given the fact that you live most of your life in colonial culture, we could maybe say that you're a Christianized Hottentot.
That doesn't sound like something the English would want to see.
Just hold on. Just 6 years ago, a missionary, Johannes Kitchener, took 3 Hottentots and displayed them at Scots Church as converted Hottentots. The names elude me right now, but I think their names were Johan and Martha Arnson and Martha van Roy.
Converted? From what?
Well, Kitchener describes the Hottentots living outside of colonial culture as wild Hottentots or Bushmen. His concept of those who are tame are that they work for wages and live in houses.
Oh, I can't believe it. When did they think we stay in trees?
Yes, many believe that.
And woman! Ay.
Well, Sarge, you must understand that you're to how Christianity can tame the, and I quote, barbarians.
Alexander, this doesn't sound like a good idea to me. I can't see us making money out of a show like this, and it has been done before.
That's probably right. Seems like everyone wants a bloody spectacle these days. I went to the Bartholomew Fair the other day. Richardson gave me some advice. What if we combine the bacchanalian elements of the fair with scientific curiosity?
Now you've lost me.
Me too. What is this back?
It is an English word for a loud and rowdy event.
Local sayings.
And these pretenses to science?
We need to make Sarchi a subject worthy of attention to the virtuoso and the rich and the famous and the curious. What if we combine exoticism and sexuality with the nod to science and create an exciting and enticing spectacle?
I get the sex part. Is the Englishmen, they are obsessed with the Khoi figure. But explain the science aspect.
I'm not sure about the sex.
We will get to that, Sarchi. Just calm down. We need to make sure that you're from an unknown African tribe, a wild, untamed African tribe.
How am I going to convince people I'm from this wild?
You can make it up as you go along. Nobody will know whether it's real or not.
Maybe I could tell them my life story.
No, please don't, because that would put you right back in the tame category. They want to see a wild Hottentot of their imagination.
I can give her in check with a big stick.
Probeer het.
And we can have a place to put it in.
Probeer dit net, meneer. I'm not sure about all this wildness and creatures, Alexander. I thought I was going to entertain the
And
people.
so you will. You want to make money or not?
Yes, I do.
Well, people certainly won't pay to come and see a lady. They want to see a raw, wild Hottentot out of the bush.
And your figure will fascinate them.
Ek sal daar oor doen.
No thinking, my dear. I know what's best for the show, and you will just have to make it work.
Can I at least play my musical instruments?
Maybe start to good dance, play instruments, and sing as well.
Yeah, maybe. As long as we don't lose the barbaric elements, yeah, by all means you can do that. But, Sarki, do you think you'll be able to do all of this?
Het ek 'n keuse?
Eintlik nee.
What are you saying?
Don't worry, she will do it.
Anyway, you said what I don't know, I can make up.
What are we going to call her?
How about Sarki, the woman?
Nee man, yeah. What about Sarchi, the Hottentot? Sarchi, the Hottentot Venus.
Not bad, but what about just the Hottentot Venus?
Venus or not, you better get on with the sun if we are going to eat.
Don't forget the laundry.
I'll get the boys to help with that tomorrow. Feeling like I was eating something of Venus. Sarki, die sprok my, dis 'n beter pret as jy die vra.
The Hottentot Venus just arrived and may be seen between the hours of 1 and 5 in the evening at number 225 Piccadilly. From the banks of the River Gantois, on the borders of Cafedia, in the interior of South Africa, a most correct and perfect specimen of that race of people. She is habited in the new rude ornament that all her people usually wear. She's been brought to this country at a considerable expense by Henry Cesar, and their stay will be but of short duration. Admittance 2 shillings each.
Ek is so siek en sak om self en elke dag te doen en druk. Every day the same. Sit en bereid for these ignorant people.
It brings in the money, Sarchi, and you are only on stage for 3 minutes.
6
4
hours
hours.
a week.
Hallo, Sarchi. Dis nie so sleg nie.
You know what is funny?
Nee, wat?
Here I am showing off my body. When the women who come to look at me have their breasts nearly popping out of their dresses.
I miss it.
They are so snarks for me that they have their breasts popping out, but they have their arms in tight sleeves and their hair tied up with ropes. They must be so uncomfortable.
I am sure they are. But you know what is even stranger? Other men who strut around
is when the woman come up to the platform and poke me in the backside with an embrace.
They just cannot believe you are real, so they must test it.
I so I am going to do something for them.
Enough complaining. At least you are free.
As a child, I thought I had freedom. Running around across the field without a care in the world. Now, the survival of the truth lies on my shoulders. Alexander will soon be on retirement, and half pay, and 2 rents to pay. Not to mention feeding 5 people. Hey, Indra, where are all those riches we've dreamed of?
We are doing okay.
I was doing okay in the Cape. When is it going to be our turn? We had such great dreams.
Life will never be perfect, Sachi. Perhaps it is better eking out a living here in London than our perceived okay in Papenstone. At least here, we are living in a higher society and we have freedom of movement.
True. I now make decisions for myself, yet these are constrained and dictated by what others think, what others need, what society demands. Is this really freedom?
Sachi, to put it to you bluntly, you have no clue what it is like to have your waist curtailed or even being a slave.
Neither have you. Your great-grandparents were the slaves.
Sachi, my liver, Sachi. As a boy, you could come and go as you please. Even though I was a free black, I had to carry a pass in the Cape. I could not get a loan or even start a business, nor did I have any status. I was looked down upon. I might as well have been a slave.
Okay, so I am wrong. But that does not change my situation.
Let us look at your situation. You are living in one of the most beautiful cities in the whole world, and you are famous.
Famous? Just because I have a different figure to the European, I am famous. I'm like an animal on display. Oh yes, I play my part. I make them believe in that which they want to see. I may not be in iron shackles, but shackled am I. Right now, on the stage.
Oh no, Sachi.
I undergo humiliation. Even you chase me with a stick sometimes, as if I'm some animal.
Come now, Sachi, that is all part of the act, and you know it.
Yes, I know, but I had a dream of something better, something different. This is not quite the picture I had when we left the Cape.
Look on the bright side, Sachi. On Sundays, you take drives around St. James Park.
Sure, I can roam freely around St. James Park and watch the rich walk by. I do enjoy watching the pigeons scramble for food and the ducks on the lake. Then there are the squirrels. They run up and down the trees and look at me as if inquired. What am I doing in this foreign land? The grey skies are not the skies of home. The clouds cover my head like a carrosse on a cold winter's night, suffocating me beneath it. But when the sun does break through, I get a glimpse of home.
Would you like to go back home?
Oh, nee, ek sal dit weer te begin. I'm homesick, yes, but there was nothing there for me. That is why we left. Possibly the only time I knew of freedom was when I was in Khoi-Khoi with Indra. We used to sit quietly together and watch the seagulls over the harbour, the smell of the sea breeze, the noise as the fishermen brought their catch home. Nothing was required of me. I could be myself. How I wish we could be together again.
You could go and look for you in Holland.
Nee, ek sal nie weet waar hy om te gaan nie. I think he has made a home for himself. I think finding that out would help me.
Time to stop chatting and finish up, Sachi. It's almost time for the doors to open. I'm gonna go get things ready in the front.
Compared with other sites, the Hottentot Venus is the shows while the Venus treads the stage. We'll go no more to other shows while the Hottentots the rage.
The Hottentot Venus is a sad creature who's made to sing and dance for money.
Other exhibitions in London included Tona Marie. the Venus of South America, the fasting woman of Tadbury, and the 50-stone Daniel Lambert, known as Fat Dad, the fattest man that ever lived.
Also, the Frenchman Claude Envoy Surratt, the living skeleton, conversely the thinnest man that ever lived, and the 19.5-inch tall Caroline Khoi-Khoi, better known as the miniature Sicilian fairy.
We are cruel in our pleasures. We laugh at exactly that which saddens us.
I put it to you, Lord Edinburgh, that the facts are clear, that the exhibition of Miss Baartman is in fact an instance of slavery on British soil.
Proceed, Sir William.
Messer Cesar stated that Miss Baartman is a woman of the Hottentot tribe and that he obtained her from the Dutch Boers and brought her to Cape Town. The governor, he claims, gave him permission to bring her to London. This, however, is in contradiction of the Caledon Code of 1809, enacted by Lord Caledon himself, that prevents colonists from bringing cuckoo from the Cape. Furthermore, Messer Cesar has no proof of this permission, nor does he have any written proof of a contract entered into between himself and Miss Baartman.
That might be so, but have we heard from Miss Baartman in this case?
My lord, we have not, as only Messer Cesar can control and converse her. Members of the African Institution are of the belief that Miss Baartman is a slave by the way she is treated. Messer Cesar commands her to turn around on stage, and he invites the audience to prod at her buttocks. Furthermore, her attire has much to be contrived, and shows off all her attributes as if she were naked.
So she's tightly habited.
Yes, my lord. She is dressed in a color as nearly resembling her skin as possible. And to make it worse, Messer Cesar invites the audience, or asks the audience, to touch particular parts of her person.
So, William, if that is the case, then we suggest you pursue a case of public indecency, not slavery. As you state, she's wearing a brown dress that's tight-fitting and echoes nudity, and furthermore, you say people prod at her buttocks.
My lord, over and above these issues, she is also unhappy, dejected, and deprived of her liberty. Herewith, affidavits of concerned citizens. With respect, Your Honor, it is much to the credit of this country and society who instruct me to make this application, that a woman in the unfortunate state that Miss Baartman finds herself is not without friends here.
Does it seem that she shows a feeling of pain from her circumstance?
My lord?
I do not call for what might be indelicate exposure, but only desire to know the mode of exhibition be such as to give pain to a sensitive mind.
We would have to inquire from the subject directly.
I would have to object to that approach, Your Honor.
Your objection is noted.
If we agree to a trial, and if it's indeed found that she's in this state of alleged bondage, who will be looking after her personal well-being?
My lord, the members of the gentlemen of the African Institution will take her under their protection, and they will also take care in the interim that she be properly disposed of.
Thank you.
Methinks the saints of the African Institution care less for indecency and exposure of the subject than liberty.
It's curious as this matter is brought before us now, when it's found that in Sierra Leone they're recruiting people, and this very matter is wanting them.
I would have to agree with you on this concern. But it is strange that the African Institution, and especially Macaulay and Babington, are petitioning only on behalf of Miss Baartman and not on behalf of the two African boys with her. Are they not more likely to be enslaved?
I think that Mrs. Macaulay are evading this issue because of personal involvement.
There is much to consider. We do not give the African Institution permission to proceed, we might be upholding the very banned concept of slavery. If we do proceed, we might be giving into the political views of the saints.
I would suggest that we grant permission for the trial to go ahead, but that we have our own people interview Ms. Baartman, and in so doing, find out exactly what her position is and her state of mind is.
I concur with that, and I insist that we find a Dutch interpreter so Ms. Baartman can express herself freely.
We must also ensure that none of the so-called oppressors are present during the interview, as this might put pressure on Ms. Baartman.
We are in agreement then.
Yes.
Aye.
So, William, you shall have your trial. It is so ordered that the court date be set for the 27th day of November of the calendar year 1810. Court dismissed.
The story of Sara Baartman is the story of the African people of our country. It is a story of the loss of our ancient freedom. It is a story of our dispossession of the land and the means that gave us an independent livelihood. It is a story of our reduction to the status of objects that could be owned, used, and disposed of by others who claim for themselves a manifest destiny to run the empire of the globe. It is an account of how it came about that we ended up being defined as a people without a past, except a past of barbarism, who had no capacity to think, who had no culture, no value system to speak of, nothing to contribute to human civilization. People with no names and no identity.
So, LeBlanc, can you please ensure some seating be arranged? All settled then? The interview conducted with Miss Sara Baartman on the 27th day of November in the calendar year of 1810 at Duke Street, St. James Square.
Onderhoud gevoerd met mevrouw Sara Baartman op de 27e van november 1820, de Dukestraat, St. James Plain.
Miss Baartman, I would like to discuss a contract given to me by Mr. Dunlop, which you have allegedly signed.
De meneer wil het contract met je bespreken, wat meneer Dunlop aan je gegeven heeft, getekend en aan hem gegeven.
Did you read the contract before signing it?
Heb je de contract gelezen, alvorens je getekend hebt?
Ik kan niet schrijven of lezen, mevrouw.
She did not read the contract because she cannot read or write.
Very well. Did Mr. Dunlop at least explain the nature of the contract, and does she understand the contents?
Heb meneer Dunlop de contract aan je verduidelijkt en begrijp je dat?
Hij heeft met mij gepraat, ja.
He did speak with the...
Now, for my own clarity and to ensure that Miss Baartman understands the nature of the contract, I would like to explain it to her.
Die meneer wil de contract aan je verduidelijken.
Alsjeblieft.
This is a contract of service between Mr. Dunlop and yourself. You are expected to do household chores and to exhibit yourself in both Ireland and England. Payment to be made to you will be 12 guineas. All the expenses of the trip to Ireland will be carried by Mr. Dunlop, and also Mr. Dunlop undertakes to pay for your return to the Cape should you wish to return before the 5 years is up. Is that what you agreed to?
Is dat wat je weet aan?
Ja, mevrouw.
Right. Now that we have the legalities out of the way, I would need some background. Miss Baartman, where were you born?
I was born in the Kamderboer below the Tantjesberg.
Is that where you were found when you were brought to the Cape?
When I was young, we moved from the Kamderboer to the Gamtoos and from the Gamtoos to the Cape.
How did you get from the that place where you were? Okay.
The brother of my late master, Peter Sara Baartman, to the Cape.
Your late master, wouldn't that be Mr. Hendrik Cesar?
Yes, sir.
What do you mean, late master? Is he not still with you?
No, he left.
Where did he go?
I don't know.
And who told him to leave?
I don't know, he just left.
Convenient.
Come now, Mr. Leblanc. You are not here to badger Miss Baartman, and you are merely here as a courtesy. Miss Baartman, were you forced to go to the Cape?
No, sir, I went to the Cape on my own.
But the Boer farmer you work for sold you to Peter Cesar's.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But you say you went willingly.
Yes, sir.
Now, Miss Baartman, why did you want to go to the Cape?
Because my father always spoke of the Cape as this beautiful city and it sounded so exciting and different.
What did your father do for the farmer?
He took cattle to the Cape and sold it, sir.
Is your father still alive?
No, sir, they persecuted him.
When did this happen?
On one of his journeys, sir.
Your mother?
She's also dead, sir.
Any brothers and sisters?
4 sisters and 2 brothers.
Would you like to go back to the Cape to see them?
No, sir, I don't want to go back.
I see. Miss Baartman, what did you do in the Cape?
I worked for Hendrik Cesar and other stores. I was their maid.
And is that all you did?
Yes, sir, I did washing and cleaning and I looked after the children.
And were you free to come and go as you pleased?
Yes, sir.
And were you forced to come to England?
No, sir.
Now, I believe there was a contract between you and Mr. Cesar. Tell me, what did that say?
It said that I would do a show and receive money, half of the money.
And how long was this contract for?
6 years, and then I was to go, if I wanted to.
Miss Baartman, did the governor give you and Mr. Cesar's permission to come to England?
Yes, sir. I went to the governor on my own in November to get permission.
That is a blatant lie. The governor could not have given permission, as it was his order that no cuckoo be taken from the Cape.
So, LeBlanc, it does puzzle me that neither Mr. Dunlop or Mr. Cesar can produce a contract between them or permission from the governor. However, you have no right to interject. Please be seated. Miss Baartman, do you know why there are no documents?
No, I don't.
I don't believe this.
Now, Sir LeBlanc. Miss Baartman, how will you get back to the Cape?
Mr. Dunlop promised to send me back and with money, sir.
About Mr. Dunlop, how does he fit into the picture?
That is a good question.
Excuse me?
Is he your benefactor, your employer, your impresario?
Mr. Dunlop belongs me.
Yes, I know, but I'm trying to figure out the nature of the agreement.
I don't know what you are saying. I think you should ask him the questions himself.
Right then. Doesn't seem like we're going to get anywhere with this line of questioning.
You cannot just leave it there.
Mr. LeBlanc, if you interrupt me one more time, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Baartman, is there anything you need?
No, sir, I have nothing I need.
And do you have complaints against your, how shall I put it, employers who exhibit you?
No, sir, I have no complaints. I'm perfectly happy, sir.
Do you want to go back to the Cape?
No, sir, I don't want to go back.
Not even to see your brothers and sisters?
No, sir.
Miss Baartman, is anyone harming you with violence or threats?
No, sir. I have 2 boys to help me. One in the morning and the other one helps to put the rope around my waist.
Miss Baartman, is there anything you need at all?
Is dat enige bezwaar wat jy het?
Nee, my enigste besware is dat ek baie koud kry. Ek wil graag warmer klere hê.
Her only complaint is that she is very cold and she would like some warmer clothes.
We will address that. That seems to conclude our interview. Oh, Miss Baartman, one final question. Would you like to go back to the Cape, or would you like to stay here in England?
Wil je terug naar de kamer?
Ik wil hier bly.
One of the many tragedies of Sara Baartman's life is that the more she grew accustomed to Europe, to being European, the more Europe rejected her. Unlike the transformation of Pocahontas into Rebecca, Europeans insisted on Sara Baartman being primitive and savage.
Sara Baartman, a female Hottentot from the colony of the Cape of Good Hope, born on the borders of Cape, was baptized this day, the 1st of December, 1811, in the Manchester Cathedral.
With the death of Alexander Dunlop in July 1812, Sara lost her last strong connection to the world and the many people she knew in the Cape. What did the future hold for her? A woman alone in England, only known for an icon on display, a symbol of African exoticism.
Thank you, John. You know, we should all do what Sara does. Sophie, perhaps you and Nigel can get some jester costumes, and then you can perform in those.
No, Ben. No. I'm not dressing up like a jester and making a fool of myself. No.
They are laughing at you anyway. So, what is the big deal? You might still get away with it. But just imagine, a 7-foot-tall black jester. More scary than funny if you ask me.
Come on now, the two of you. I can just see the billboards, the long and the short of it.
That will never happen.
Definitely not. Maybe I must use you in my show.
I don't think so.
No.
You see, we already have the makings of a great comedy act.
Very fun.
Or maybe I could teach you to speak something.
No. I don't think that. By the way, where does your language come from?
It comes from the Inkwa people from the Kamdeboer.
They come the what?
The Kamdeboer.
And what does this word mean?
It is actually a picture of a green thing with a speckworm grows on the mountainsides.
The what grows there?
The speckworm. It is a small tree, a fat tree or a bacon tree. It is good to eat by both animals and us.
Can't say it sounds appetizing. I've never been a leaves person, and give me ice pie.
Yes!
So, why did you come to England? Well, I thought I was going to become rich and famous. Well, that was the idea anyway.
And now here you are at St. Barry Edmund Fair as a sideshow.
Hey, Sophie, hang on. Sarah is quite famous. She's performed before the gentry and the royal family, and she's had quite a long run in London itself. We're in the company of a celebrity.
Sorry, but she's nominated with the rest of us, so she's a sideshow.
I don't care. I'm glad she's here with us.
Me too. It is nice to have someone from Africa here. It brings a sense of comfort.
We'll be opening the gate soon.
Showtime!
I'll see you all tonight. Remember, we've all been invited by Philip Astley to his place, and I am cooking.
Astley the showman?
Yes!
Ha ha!
moon story.
No, not the letters and the moon story. It changes every time and it confuses me.
Ha! That is not so difficult to do.
If I was $5, I would box you around your head.
Ah!
But this angels like a little pop.
Now showing at Mr. Croft's Angel Hill Bury, recently arrived from London, the most wonderful phenomenon of nature, and the only Hottentot ever to be displayed in Europe. The Hottentot Venus! Considering the morose disposition of those people, who barely seem to laugh or smile ever, she is rather tame and affable in her manners. Here, the only booth at the fair, the wonderful Curiosity, the only one in the world, the Hottentot Venus, which measures 3 yards and 3/4 around. Now, only 1 shilling apiece.
Sara Baartman should never have been transported to Europe. Sara Baartman should never have been robbed of her name and relabeled Sarah. Sara Baartman should never have been stripped of her native and Khoi-Khoi identity and paraded in Europe as a savage monstrosity. This young woman was treated as if she was something monstrous. But where in this affair is the monstrosity? Indeed, where did the monstrosity lie in the matter of gross abuse of a defenseless African woman in England and France? It was not the abused human being who was monstrous, but those who abused her. It was not the lonely African woman in Europe, alienated from her identity and motherland, who was a barbarian, but those who treated her with barbaric brutality.
I'm playing on the popular beliefs that the French have of the Hottentot people's side. The author of Alarm, he's much read in France and he wrote of a time that he stayed with the Hottentot people. So let's just go with the flow.
Maybe so. To the Europeans, we are all just savages.
And that is what they want to see.
I suppose you want me now to attack the audience as a wild savage.
No, leave those old London tricks. You are doing very well. The audience enjoy your singing and your dancing and you engage them so well. You're doing an excellent job.
Thank you, Henry.
Listen to this. The Journal de Paris urges the public to see the Hottentot Venus, who has newly arrived from London. They go on to say that she has a very engaging manner, but cautions that ideas of beauty may vary according to the climate, and amateurs should not expect to discover in the Hottentot Venus the forms of the Venus de Medici. Her manner is lively and pleasant with her audience.
Beauty may vary. Beauty may vary. What do they know of beauty? It seems that their fashion seems to be following my backside.
True. Here's a reporter with another idea. You remember that newspaper man came to see you the other day?
The one with the strange hairstyle.
That's the one. He writes, I hoped to see the original Hottentot Venus before I attended the vaudeville. Alas, my hopes cruelly evaporated. I found Mademoiselle Sarti, who was rather pretty.
At least it thinks I'm pretty.
However, instead of the imposing and majestic Venus of the Cape of Storms, I found only a sylph-like Venus.
I wonder what they expected to see.
Obviously, wanted to see the Hottentot Venus and not just plain old Sarti.
Hey, what should Henry watch this plain old Sarti thing? It's scary though. No one wants to know about me. No one wants to know the real me. It seems that the character has been taking on a life of its own.
Let me see what they want to see, Sarti. Listen to this one. He says he gave you a lift home and interviewed you.
Well, that never happened. No one ever gave me a lift home. As we know, I ride my own carriage.
I know. However, he starts off quoting you saying, "My name is Sara, poor Sara, Sara who does not deserve her fate."
I never called myself Sara. So we know he's making this one up.
True. He goes on quoting you. The sun turned 20 times before she first saw the whites who took her from her natal shore.
This one fancies himself a poet more than just a journalist.
Maybe so. He then talks about your happy youth and of a party to celebrate your marriage to a man named Solka when the Boer commando interrupts this.
I wonder how people just can make up stories.
Hear this? He writes, quoting you saying, "We unfortunate victims which death had not taken were attached with strong bonds and taken away by malicious men from our cherished forest. Carried through many insults on floating trees where we saw nothing but the sea and clouds. On each of our voyage, I thought I would find the palm trees and sand of my African home."
Palm trees. What does he think I am? An ignorant thing floating on palm trees. Maybe when Niger came from there was palm trees. We should sue him.
You know what, Sarti? Don't worry about it. All publicity is good publicity.
True, but my concern is that one day someone's going to use this journal story as if it was the truth about my life.
It's a testing to your skills as an actress, my dear.
My life used to be so simple. Nothing was required of me. Now, people demand so much. I'm in Europe, but I'm not a European. I'm a Khoi-Khoi, but I'm not of my land. People demand too much. I wish I could be old little Sara Baartman from the comfortable world. No more.
The historic mission of restoring the human dignity of Sara Baartman, of transforming ours into a truly non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous country, providing a better life for all our people. A troubled and painful history has presented us with a challenge and possibility to translate into reality the noble vision that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. And when that is done, it will be possible for us to say that Sara Baartman has truly come home. This means that we must act to restore the dignity of the Khoi and the San people as a valued part of our diverse nation. It means that we must act to restore the dignity and identity of the Khoi and the San people as a diverse part of our diverse nation. We must act firmly to eradicate the legacy of apartheid and colonialism in all its manifestations. This means that we must not relent in the form of restoring our society. This work is necessary. if we want to eradicate racism, xenophobia, and the contempt for some people for other people.
I'm waiting for the moon to turn back for me, that I may set my foot on the path and move forward. It is time that I should sit together with my people. I want to talk to my people. This is another man's place. These people do not hear my stories. They do not know my stories. My fellow men are those who listen to far-off stories, stories which sail alone. I'm waiting for the moon to turn back for me, that I may return to my place. I see my people now. They have come for me. The moon has returned for me.
The moon carries the soul away. The spirits of the dead are held in its non-white palm. Once we lived forever beneath the southern skies. Moons promised that we would rise from the places where we fell, to live and walk with the animals on the veldt. But here, Moon's messenger lied. Moon became mad, and in his anger, we lost our immortality.
The Hottentot Venus died this day, 29th of December, 1815 at 7 a.m. after a short illness of 3 days.
Enslaved, exploited, shown as an animal, Sara was finally dissected by scientists who wanted first and foremost to claim their theory of the superiority of one race over the other.
For his part, the Baron Cuvier made it a point to pay particular attention to Sara Baartman's private parts, proceeding to present her genitalia to the Academy of Medicine.
We are drawn to the life of Sara Baartman and the strange legacies surrounding the Hottentot Venus. The story was also a cautionary tale. Silence, the limits of history. Who was this person that became the Hottentot Venus?
Sara entered Europe's psyche, not as a woman, not as a living, breathing person with emotions and memories and longings, but as a metaphor, a figment, a person reduced to a likeness. We will always know more about the phantom that haunts the Western imagination, a phantom complete that has nearly become a living, breathing person, than we do about the life of Sara Baartman.
Ghosts haunt our history. The thousands of people hunted down and murdered on South Africa's frontiers, abandoned without proper burial, and those forced into servitude appear as partial and veiled images, fragments or traces, really.
The stroke of a pen, the mark of print, the authority of science silenced Sara Baartman's life, of traveling across South Africa, of loving, of giving birth, of suffering. It did not, could not account for her journeys across the Atlantic, through much of England, the woman baptized in Manchester, the Sara working at the Le Royale, a woman who braved a Europe of industry and revolution, and who died at the center of European politics and legends.
Sara remains in prison still, literally behind bars that surround the gravesite, and also ensnared by the diverse people's expectations and by histories that remain traumatic. No matter how hard we try to remember, no matter how hard we try to put her to rest, Sara accompanies the multitude of ghosts, inhabiting the dry winds of the African forest.